That oppressive summer night, the house lights suddenly failed. The heat was stifling, so most of the family drifted out to the yard to seek the sparse relief of the evening air. Having just prepared the tea, I, Eleanor, followed them out. I had barely reached the lawn when I encountered my friends, Caleb, Barnaby, and Noah. We quickly huddled together, seeking some amusement to while away the darkness. Caleb abruptly spoke up with a suggestion. Back in school, I heard about this intensely stimulating spirit game called the Dark Corner. The premise is simple. 4 people enter a pitch-black room, each facing the wall in a separate corner. We pick a leader, and then we begin walking counterclockwise, moving from one corner to the next, lightly tapping the back of the person standing there. The person who is tapped yields the spot, and then starts their own walk. This continues until the last walker reaches an empty corner. At that point, they must emit a single, audible throat clear to signal the empty space before continuing. If the sequence holds, you'll hear that sound a maximum of 3 times, and then it will cease. The vanishing sound signifies that a 5th entity has entered the room. What do you say? Shall we tempt fate? Good heavens, that sounds utterly chilling. Why on earth would we play something like that? Let's choose another game. I immediately objected. The other 2 friends vehemently shook their heads. The power is out. We're already on edge. That's far too frightening. Caleb, however, was persistent. It's not a guarantee. If we hear the 3rd throat clear, the 5th person hasn't materialized, and we are free to leave. If the sound drops out after the 2nd, you just continue the circuit for a few more turns with the presence, and the clearing sound should return eventually. I've played it before. It only took a few minutes, and nothing went wrong. But think of the sheer thrill, being confined in a dark room with that sort of thing. Caleb then turned his persuasion into a pointed challenge. I can understand the girls being scared, but Barnaby, why are you too afraid to try? This goading immediately shifted Barnaby's stance, and he agreed to play. Noah, too, was swayed by Caleb's insistent explanation and decided to try. I was the only holdout. Seeing that everyone else was determined, I reluctantly joined, though I had one caveat. Doesn't this game require a totally empty room? Our houses are full of furniture. How could we possibly pass back and forth between 4 corners? How can we play? Caleb scoffed. I proposed it. Do you think I wouldn't be ready? Just follow me. He led us down the hall and up the stairs to the rooftop. There, he ushered us into a small utility room. The chamber was shrouded in profound darkness. There was a tiny window, but it appeared to have been covered, admitting no trace of light. A thick pipe ran through the center, likely for drainage. Caleb gave a low laugh. This is a forgotten spot I found up here. Once I shut this door, there won't be a single photon of light. It's perfect. Well, do you know the rules? He asked. The 3 of us nodded. I'll take the corner by the door, Caleb continued. You 3 choose your spots. I'll close the door, and we start. We chose our positions, moving counterclockwise. The circuit would be Caleb, myself, Barnaby, and Noah. Caleb closed the door and began the first walk. I stood still, and within moments, I felt Caleb's hand lightly pat my shoulder from behind. I left my corner, yielded the space, and fumbled my way toward the next corner. It was a small room. Only a few steps were needed. I tapped Barnaby and settled into that corner. Then, Barnaby began his turn. Soon, I heard the throat clear. The first circuit was complete. Given the positions, It had to have been Noah. My blood ran cold. If we continued, just as Caleb had claimed, by the third round at the latest, the fifth entity would manifest. I would be the one to touch it. I instantly regretted playing. When the second throat clear echoed, I knew it would soon be my turn to reach the final corner. After feeling the tap on my shoulder, I moved, simultaneously praying the fifth entity wouldn't appear, and trembling as I took my steps. I had only walked a few paces when I neared the next corner. Despite the deep gloom, I distinctly sensed that it was not empty. Someone was standing there, waiting. I dared not utter a sound. I stepped forward, softly patted the person's shoulder, and felt the figure before me leave the wall and start walking. I quickly slipped into that position. As the game droned on, a chilling thought struck me. The signal, the throat clear, had vanished. The others must know that the fifth person had arrived, correct? And I had already tapped this entity several times, yet it hadn't disappeared. The fear was overwhelming. Every time I waited for the tap from behind, the prospect of moving to the next corner became a terrifying ordeal. Suddenly, a theory sparked in my mind. The room was utterly dark. It would be simple for someone to play a cruel trick and fake the fifth presence. All it would take is for one player, upon reaching the empty corner, to deliberately omit the throat clear. They would then proceed to the occupied corner, tap that person, and return to their original empty spot. Repeating this could convincingly simulate a non-existent fifth player. If that were true, who was the culprit? Caleb? He had initiated the game. No, Barnaby was just before me. Could Barnaby and Caleb be collaborating? Perhaps Noah was involved too. He'd initially resisted, yet surprisingly joined. It was plausible. My solution: I would leave my corner and walk to the pipe in the room's center. My spot would become permanently empty. I would see if Caleb, following behind me, would finally be forced to stop the game. I acted on this decision, leaving my corner and moving toward the middle. Unable to see, I immediately collided with something soft. Not the pipe, but a person. Startled, I prepared to scream, but a hushed voice cut through the darkness. Who is that? I recognized Barnaby's voice and felt a wave of relief. It's Eleanor. Why are you standing here? Then, I heard Noah's voice. Barnaby and I have been standing here for a while. I arrived first. At first I assumed you, Caleb, or Barnaby were playing the trick, so I let the round continue. But I then decided to leave my corner to try and halt the game. Who knew that soon after Barnaby also arrived, but the tapping still kept going. We were just whispering, trying to figure out why the game was still running with only you and Caleb left. Then you crashed right into us. At that very moment, the sound of a shoulder pat rang out again. A deep terror set in. If Barnaby and Noah were both standing here, there was no way Caleb could be circling the room by himself. This was fundamentally wrong. Could a genuine fifth entity truly be playing alongside Caleb? I whispered, "What do we do now? Should we call for Caleb to leave?" But Barnaby and Noah offered no response. I quickly reached out, intending to grasp their arms, but I found nothing. My hand only brushed against the pipe in the center of the room. I swept my hands around again, but the space was empty. A searing chill shot down my spine. I had clearly run into something soft just moments ago, but the darkness was absolute. I hadn't seen who they were. I had only heard the voices of Barnaby and Noah, but were they truly my friends? And now, I had vacated my corner. Why, then, did the game persist. I stood transfixed by horror, while the sounds of footsteps and shoulder taps continued to echo relentlessly in the room.